It's February 24th, 2022. I'm watching the breaking news on something that took place in New York yesterday via the UN. There's the ambassador to Russia, which says federal something or other. And then there's Ukraine. And the Ukrainian, and now I'm paraphrasing, but I'll play what he actually said, said something about purgatory. They go straight to hell. Now, I wonder, when there was the Afghanistan war, this is addressing the United States, while the United States was in Afghanistan and was doing whatever they did over there, because I had no eyes or ears on the entire situation. Just curious, how did a refugee situation erupt and then them find their way into North America? It seems as though the going teleportation, or the television version, is that they lost their world governance. They did something wrong, and then they were being taken care of in that region until, I don't know what did the U.S. step in to defend them, even though they had already been found to be guilty of something else? So now if the U.S. steps in, takes them in, now does that put me in danger and my children in danger on world stage between the UN, the US, and the UK? Just curious. My father once told me, my father only had one joke his entire life. He told me when I was little, some joke that someone had told him. He said there was a man on an Indian reserve, or a reservation or whatever, and he had a teepee. I guess this would go back to that Dances with Wolves reference. And the man had a teepee, and the chief sat in the teepee, and his name was Bowel, B-O-W-L, and they wanted him to move. And so the man who wanted him to move would come and meet with the chief, and the chief would say, "Bowel, no move." And then they would leave. They came back, and then they said, "We need you to leave," and "Bowel, no leave." Long story short is they came back with some form of medicine man. They treated Bowel. And then the next time they came to see Bowel, they said, "We need you to leave." And he says, "Bowel has to leave now. TP full of shit." So that's the whatever I arrived to in telling the truth on teleportation and telling real world whatever antics.
Traffic heading out of the country at a standstill. Here in New York, at this emergency United Nations Security Council meeting overnight, the Ukrainian and Russian ambassadors faced off at the very moment Putin decided to invade.
The aim of this special operation is to protect the people who, for over 8 years, have been suffering genocide from the Kiev regime.
There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell.
And so President Biden is expected to address the nation within the hour. He's expected to announce additional sanctions on the Russian economy.
Now this is interesting, talking about trying to control the conversation, because how do you keep anything secret and do anything important in the world when you have these reporters reporting on your private family business and operations, and they seem to have inside information, and then they twist the story in this new Colosseum method, let's call it,
to destroy the Russian economy and really hurt them economically. Reporting live here outside the UN, I'm Derek Waller, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Hey, Derek, thank you so much. The attack.
Now she's reporting on Ukraine crisis. Shouldn't a family representative be reporting directly? Why does there need to be another version?
Attacks overseas are being felt here in our local communities. Ukrainians here in the tri-state area, they are watching the news with bated breath, praying for the safety of their family and friends. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Johnson, he's live in Bound Brook with more. Anthony.
Yeah, Candace, there's a large population of Ukrainians living in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Many of them are at this location this morning, and they are thinking and praying for the people who are in harm's way.
Now think of how much intelligence they have gathered with all of this going on, reporting on someone else's story.
The mood was somber, but their prayers were calling for strength in the wake of war. Members of the Ukrainian Metropolitan Council had more to pray about this morning as jarring images of...
Why don't people, many different people, have their own speaker and their own correspondent to speak on behalf of whatever they're representing? Why is there some turn of events and then some turn of the conversation and then it getting confusing?
in the past and vow to stand against Russian aggression.
How many times does the Ukrainian nation have to suffer? How many times does it have to be put down and buried and always rising again from the ashes and rebuilding itself?
This group of Christians say war is evil, but they are asking the West to step up the supplies of military aid to protect the Ukrainian people in their time of need.
War is evil, especially when it's brought against the wrong population consistently. That is where you need to get the messenger program corrected so the message is coming out of the right microphone and into the right audience. So mistakes aren't made on genocidal or homicidal levels of like really scary populations just disintegrated. Now here's this one.
Of military aid to protect the Ukrainian people in their time of need.
Russians are attacking without any consideration for the places where people reside. If only they were attacking strategic locations, that would be one story. But now they're impacting places of residence where people live.
That really is where the message, the strategic message, and what's really going on and what's really happened is really important. And I think it's falling short of reaching the target audience in the correct method.
Several cities are taking
and again,
no chances.
I don't have, I only have what's on this teleportation device in order to...
Adding quote... to withdraw money?
In order to get a view, so I want to add this. So this looks like President at the UN level, over here's the flag for the UN. And then there's the representative from the United States, and there's the representative from the United Kingdom. Now, this is also interesting because listen to what the message is at this blackened event and how it's twisted. Especially, I keep my bearings straight in the North Sea for the North America, whatever, because I know I was harmed by whatever's going on in the US. But yet, somewhere, and not quite sure between the Ruffin and the Roofie kids who keep targeting me and hunted me down throughout my youth, teenagehood, and young adulthood, and most recently in my 30s.
The UN Security Council coming together for another emergency meeting late Wednesday night.
At the exact time as we are gathered in the council seeking peace, Putin delivered a message of war.
Now NATO and the EU stepping up their response, vowing to send additional aid to the region. Western Ukraine and...
Are the chess pieces on the right parts of the one chessboard? I'm just curious. It seems there's a checkered past and some game of chess that's going on. Now, I find this interesting. It says New Jersey is sending Guard members to Washington, D.C. This fatigue look, when I went to the booth to ask where the police department was, like an exact address, because I didn't have a phone or a map. Turned out it was a National Guard member. And so that was the night, though, that I was struck with some form. It was like a hybrid attack between, it was actually much worse than they described stricken and Havana syndrome. It was that time and then increased with some other gaslight effect. And then some insidious stay in the disgusting healthcare system that New York uses with this UN darkened or blackened movement that they're up to, and it's televised everywhere. Just their aggressiveness towards my kind. And I don't hear anybody speaking up on our behalf. In fact, what I see is somewhere else in the world, more of my people going to war and killing one another, rather than taking care of some of the real problem elsewhere. At least that's what's televised. I don't have a road map to where everybody is geospatially or geopolitically. Yeah, this is the name of the Canadian that they speak of on the teleportation device. It says it revokes Emergency Act after Canada blockades and I don't know what that
in
means.
Ottawa. The Emergencies Act allows authorities to declare certain areas as no-go zones. It also allows police to freeze truckers' personal and corporate bank accounts. Trudeau said the sweeping powers were put in place due to deal with an acute emergency. He says the threat continues, but police have the tools they need to continue to deal with unlawful protesters.
In other news, we're following the former head of the
This is interesting because it says that President Biden is going ahead with announcing something with Supreme Court within the United States.
Towards President Biden.
Well, it looks like Russia and Ukraine are a little busy with some other story or peace.
Biden has interviewed judges J. Michelle Childs, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and there's said to be three of the president's short list to replace retiring Justice Stephen Breyer. The White House says the president has not yet chosen a nominee.
Well, coming up on Eyewitness News, a former Louisville cop on trial and
Just want to remind whatever on this video that where my feet are and where I wake up each and every painful day that I'm here in New York, there is Federal Reserve paper, debt instrument paper, with several profiles of what my family members I can't see on a day-to-day basis somewhere else in the world looking over as like a G over man, which, I mean, I met Eric Thomas Jefferson. I would assume he's one of them, with some ancestry of his own of importance. And then there's a rock wall, which also nationally monuments and reminds the interior of where I am, just to the south of Canada, but in the States, nonetheless, of our anchorage. While some confusing pieces are still yet either to be determined or are not being carried out properly. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.